Good morning. I am the Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, serving in co-ministry here at South Church with Kirsten Hunter, our Director of Lifespan Ministry, and serving in shared ministry with all of you. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you arrive with a heart full of gratitude, a mind tangled in uncertainty, a spirit lifted by joy, or shoulders weighed down by sorrow, this sacred space is a haven for you. Welcome to this time. If you are joining us online, or if you are here in person with us today, welcome to this sanctuary. A sanctuary that we have begun to acknowledge was built on land first stewarded by the Abenaki and Pennacook tribal nations, here for so many generations before settlers came, nations that did not cede this land and still fight for formal recognition. Welcome to this place where we practice living in the face of many big and sometimes troubling truths, asking ourselves, what does justice look like now? And what can we do today to learn, grow, or take action around the many ethical dilemmas of our time for which the foundations were laid so long ago? Our theme this month is generosity, and today we explore who we are in light of its reflection and who we may yet become through the light of its inspiration. I invite you to take a look at your order of service, which lists the wonderful people involved in making our service happen today, both those visible up front and those behind the scenes who make worship possible week after week. In particular, I'd like to lift up Veda, Kiper, Phelps, our worship associate today, who also happens to be the first youth on the worship associates team. And for whom this is the very first worship service she is leading, and I'm so pleased to be here with her today. It is a blessing. Please note that after Kirsten leads our Time for All Ages, I believe Jen will be offering our religious education opportunity for the youngest among us. Just follow Jen down the aisle after Kirsten's story. And every one of you is invited to stay for fellowship downstairs for coffee and treats and conversation. And my challenge to you this week is to seek out at least one person you do not know or do not know well. And the question, snow, of course. Did the dusting from last week leave you eager for more? Or are you getting ready to hunker down under a pile of blankets? Which one is it? There might be other options. I'm not sure. You guys can figure that out with each other. Please note there are large print hymnals available in the back of the sanctuary. We have assistive listening devices. If you need assistance, please ask an usher. Please silence your cell phone if you have one. And it is now time for some announcements.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Kirsten Hunter. I'm actually just going to point you in the direction of your order of service. Please read the announcements that are in there. I want to lift up in particular that we are accepting donations right now for the Children's Holiday Market. There's a bin right out in the narthex. Read about that, but Donna is organizing this really great opportunity for young people, and we all have to contribute stuff for them to be able to shop with no money for gifts for their loved ones. There's more details here. And also, upcoming on November 19th, there is an interfaith Thanksgiving service being organized by the ministerium in our community, South Church, along with so many different faith communities. So please read about that and consider attending the Interfaith Thanksgiving service. So many other things to see, including something that Jonny would like to share with us, so I will pass that along to him.
That's me. I'm Jonny Peiffer, Director of Music Ministries here at South Church, and I would like to let you know about a interfaith choir that's I'm helping to launch this holiday season with performances here at South Church, Sunday, December 10th, and at Temple Israel, Thursday, December 14th in the evening for a candlelight ceremony. We have a few rehearsals on the schedule, and as folks in the choir know, I make it work for everyone, so if you can't make these rehearsals, just talk to me. But please come up to me if you are interested in being in the interfaith choir. It's open to all. Thank you. And now, Tom Barry.
That feels like a real, strong open, so thank you, Jonny. Yes, my name is Tom Barry. I'm so pleased to stand in front of our wonderful congregation today to give an update on our annual budget campaign, of which I am this year's chair. I remember when I was new to our community, I really didn't understand the concept really well, so I'm going to break it down. A pledge is a commitment to donate money in the following year. So this year it's 2024, and 100% of those monies go to our operating fund. So that is what a pledge is. It is a future commitment to donate. You can pledge any amount that you would like. You can pay on any date, and you can pay at a frequency that best fits your lifestyle. I want to stress we are an entirely self-funded faith community. Our pledge target for the 24 campaign is $624,000, $240, and 100% of the funds that we raise go to our operating budget. The campaign runs from October through November, so we're kind of getting towards the end, so leadership can understand the budget draft for our annual meeting, which occurs in late January, early February. So our dollars support everything you see and feel around you, from the orders of service in your hand, to the candles that we share for joys and concern, to the wonderful music, the wonderful words, to our social hour, the coffee, the tea, our religious education programs, our adult spiritual education experiences. So I'm pleased to share that 70% of us have donated 79% of the dollars towards next year's campaign. So this is a great start. That's 180 individuals or families pledging just about $490,000 towards that $624,000 goal. So that's the best start that we've ever had to a campaign, but we are not on easy street. My forecasting shows us under budget. My forecasting shows us around $570,000 to $600,000, again, of that $624,000 plan. So that's 5 to 8% below our target. But we can do better. So as a steward of this church, I'm reaching out to you as fellow stewards. If you are new to our community, I ask you to consider making your first pledge. Come see me or my fabulous ABC committee members at a table at social hour, and we can basically fill you in, give you a nice, easy to complete form. If you have to run, there is a QR code in your order of service that you can take with you and do when you get home or in the car. If you have pledged in the past, we would love to hear from you. We just have a couple more weeks until the end of the formal campaign close. So, thank you to whatever you are able to pledge. All pledges are gratefully received. They are spent carefully and wisely, and the work towards our shared mission will continue only with your support. I'll close with words from Unitarian minister Edward Everett Hale from right down the road in Roxbury, Massachusetts in the 1800s. And he said, "I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. So thank you.
Speaking of generosity, I'm asking for the generosity of your listening this morning, as what I'm about to try and do is a little tricky. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love. Let me be part of the love. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be that I seek. Let me be part of the love. Let me be part of the love you give. Let me be that I seek. Let me be part of the love. Let me be part of the love. Let me be part of the love you give. Let me be part of the love. Let me be part of the love. Let me be part of the love you give. Let me be part of the love you give.
As we light our chalice here, we invite people watching at home to light a candle or chalice of their own. We light the chalice this Sunday with the profound words of Ram Dass. The most important aspect of love is not in giving or the receiving. It's in the being. When I need love from others or need to give love to others, I'm caught in an unstable situation. Being in love, rather than giving or taking love, is the only thing that provides stability. Being in love means seeing the beloved all around me. Now please stand if you are able and join me in reciting the mission statement printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Good morning. My name is Veda Kiper Phelps, and I'm one of a team of worship associates that has the honor of welcoming you today and serving South Church. In June of 2022, the South Church senior youth boarded a plane to West Virginia to study the impact of the coal industry. The United States has exploited the land of West Virginia and the Appalachian people for centuries, profiting off their labor and resources. The result has forced the people to face enormous challenges: poverty, flooding, pollution, to name a few. Senior youth worked with the organization Big Creek People in Action that fights for progress and supports the tight-knit community. The roads of West Virginia are narrow and woven with hairpin curves. The sky seems smaller there, as the mountains engulf most of your view. In June, everything was green, and vines covered the trees that bent over the road. It seemed like nature had taken over. The homes looked abandoned with crumbling brick and tarp-covered roofs. Some houses were more solid than others, having been built by the owners of the coal mines long ago. The majority weren't. The majority were made from a multitude of materials, none that looked super stable. The town seemed empty. The only sounds were the rustlings of the trees and muffled bird songs. Our second day there, half of us were given the task of digging out a local guy's basement. The guy's name was Jackie, tall, with a white mustache, dirty overalls, and a tank top. On his left bicep was a tattoo of the Confederate flag. All the energy that I felt the day before had disappeared in his presence. I was intimidated and a bit fearful. When we sat in the shade for breaks, Jackie shared his stories. He had been working in the coal mines his whole life and had survived being trapped inside the mines around 5 times. He suffered from black lung, a common condition miners experience. He had an 8th grade education and had to support himself financially at 14. His wife gave us pitchers of lemonade and repeatedly thanked us for helping them out. The walls of their home were covered with photographs of their children and grandchildren. They beamed with pride when they spoke about them. We told him we were a Unitarian Universalist church, and I'm not sure if he knew what that meant. I remember him saying something like, "I don't care what you believe in. As long as you're reading the Bible and spreading the good, I love you." We didn't tell him about our lack of Bible, but he loved us. Him and his wife lived in one of the poorest counties in the country and were putting food on our plates, gave us smiles and thanks. When senior youth met each night to recap the day, we spoke a lot about keeping an open mind. Jackie is a religious and conservative man. A Unitarian Universalist youth group and a person like Jackie shouldn't have resulted in a generous connection. But we're all just human, all just bones and blood and smiles and frowns. I don't share all of Jackie's beliefs and political ideas. I strongly disagree with the tattoo on his arm. But we come from 2 different worlds. We're going to have different perspectives. I think a lot of our world's issues are rooted in the fact we assign our differences more value than our humanness. When we strip away all the ideas that separate us, we're left with the shared identity of being human and the generosity that unfolds. Now, please rise and body your spirit for our opening hymn, Just as Long as I Have Breath, number 6 in the gray hymnal.
Okay, if there is anyone of any age who would like to listen to the story from a little closer up, feel free to come forward. I love the company. Thank you. All right. So as Ellen said, our theme this month is generosity. A lot of the people that are really up close might know about a project we're doing at South Church this year that revolves around a new character we've created. Do you know what the character is? Could you tell me the name? What's the name, Ben?
Jet pig.
Jet Pig. Jet Pig. Have you heard of Jet Pig? Oh, I see some hands going up in the back. Jet Pig is this really awesome bubbling adventure that is happening amongst people of all ages of our congregation. Some of our elders, some of our youngest are all combining their ideas to explore the new values of Unitarian Universalism.
And also, it likes Skittles.
It looks what?
It likes Skittles.
Jet Pig likes Skittles, apparently. But Jet Pig spells justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interconnection, and generosity. And generosity is our theme this month, so we're exploring the G of the Jet Pig. And today, I'm going to invite us to think about generosity and its relationship to gratitude. Because a part of the idea of generosity is cultivating a spirit of gratitude. That's a part of the language in the new exploration of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. So generosity, I'm going to start by pointing something out. Did you know, this is going to surprise you, we don't all have the same opinions about everything. Did you know that? You did know that? Oh, did you know that the fact that we don't all have the same opinions about everything is a pretty wonderful thing? Did you know that? How many people know that the fact that we don't have the same opinion about everything is also sometimes kind of tricky? Yeah, so that's weird. So we know we don't all have the same opinions about everything. We know that that's a good thing, and we know that it's tricky. Are you telling me more than one thing can be true at the same time? No. Do you want to say something?
What is an opinion?
What is an opinion? That's excellent. That's a great question. Let me see if I can explain it by giving some examples, okay? And then you tell me if I did a good job of helping you understand what opinion means. Thank you for asking. Sometimes we use big words or small words that you don't know, and it's really brave and very good to say, "Excuse me, I don't know that word." Always great to say that. So I have some examples. How many people have the opinion that dogs are great and they should be as many as possible all around our town? Raise your hand. That's an opinion. There might be some people whose hands aren't raised. I'm not going to dwell on the people who don't raise their hand for different things, because remember, we all have different opinions. We feel differently about things. How many people in this town really love gardens on the sides of the sidewalk and flowers blooming and even nice swaths of green grass? Sometimes there can be some tension between the prevalence of dogs and beautiful gardens with swaths of green grass. So sometimes the people who have the one opinion might find themselves in tension with the people who have the other one. Okay, I have another one. How many people really love live music in the park? Beautiful songs, reaching out across our whole town. You can hear the rhythm, you can feel the bass as you're moving around downtown. Lots of people raise their hand. How many people love to have their windows open in the summertime and sometimes just want it to be quiet, and they live downtown maybe? Sometimes there can be some tension between people that love that loud music and people who just want to have their windows open and feel some quiet and some peace. Does that mean one person's wrong and one person's right? No, it doesn't. How about, okay, here in church, I'm going to give you 3. How many people love organ music? Some people have their hands raised. How many people love singing hymns? Some people have their hands raised. How many people love contemporary music? That means modern, like newer music, like the Beatles. How many people love jazz music? I see Johnny's hand raised, by the way. What about the people who like jazz music but don't like hymns, or the people that like organ music but don't like contemporary music? Is one of them wrong? No. All right, I have another one. How many people in this room love to interact during worship? They're like, yes, you're going to ask me to do something. That's my favorite. How many people are like, oh my gosh, I just like to sit and receive a message? There is some tension there. So here's my question for you. What does it mean to practice generosity when you don't always feel the same as someone next to you? Yeah, Sasha, who's 12 today. Sorry.
Respect their opinions.
Respect their opinions. Thanks, Sasha. That's a great answer. That's a big part of the answer. Having generosity is respecting, this is my opinion, and that's yours. Is it making sense what opinion means? Like it's how you feel about something and someone else might feel different. Yeah? What is another thing about being generous? Yeah. Do it anyways. Like, love the things you love. Is that what you mean by that? Be generous because you're doing it because it's your choice to do it. You're choosing to be generous, no matter what the other person is choosing, because you want to. It's self-driven. That's absolutely true. Generosity is not something you can make someone else be. Bob, you're going to be generous from now on. That's it, right? Bob has to choose to be generous. So it's a self-choice, and it's one that we make, which is why, as a faith, we lift that up as a practice, something we want to work on. Anything else about being generous? Here's one last little thing I'll offer, which is when something is happening that isn't my favorite, I try to think about the fact that someone else is getting joy from that. So, if I don't really love contemporary music, like the Beatles, I might, when that kind of music is happening in service, I might be thinking about the fact that there are people in this room who are really feeling joy about that. And then, when I do that, that becomes gratitude. That becomes that thing that language says, cultivating a spirit of gratitude. Instead of me being like, this is not my favorite kind of music, I'm thinking, wow, this is Sasha's favorite kind of music, maybe. And that matters to me. And then I can let go of the fact that I'm not the one being served at that moment because someone else is. And that is a generous way of being. So that's our message for today. Love you, love your opinions. Let's love everybody else's too, and hold each other in care. And if you would be willing to try to have some fun today, I would appreciate that too, because I am of the opinion that fun matters. Jen, could you help people with that task? Anyone who wants to follow Jen down and do some jet pig fun, head on your way.
It is now time for the offering, the time we take to support the amazing and impactful program South Church offers. Donations may be made in person, online, by mailing a check to the 73 Court Street offices, or by using the Venmo app. During the month of November, our collection will be shared with Seacoast Family Promise, an organization that empowers families with children who are experiencing homelessness to achieve lasting self-sufficiency through a community-based approach. They provide temporary housing, food, and shelter using effective tools that lead families back to stability. Learn more at www.seacoastfamilypromise.org, listed in your order of service. Please give as you are able. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We're all gathered here, so far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
In this time that we hold for community care and prayer, I want to let you know Sue Thorson gave me permission to share with all of you that her cancer has come back and she is going through treatment. She is living with cancer, and she is living. She's working on a book and just headed off for a week-long trip to Florida. And cancer is never easy, so I wanted you to know, please keep Sue in your hearts and in your thoughts. And I want to invite us today into a meditation inspired by the Buddhist practice of metta, of loving kindness. Traditionally, metta begins with oneself, then expands in wider and wider circles to include those around us. We begin with those we already feel connected to, and then expand wider and wider to even those we may find it hard to love. So this meditation is inspired by that practice. It is not exactly that practice. But I invite you to begin with me by taking a conscious breath. Notice the air moving in and moving out. Maybe feel your tummy rising, falling. Let yourself feel the weight of your body sink in to your seat. Relax your shoulders, your muscles, your gaze. Resting in your breath, begin by beholding yourself. You who were once very small, you whose once newborn eyes are still your eyes, whose heart is still your beating heart. You, deserving of love from the beginning, deserving gentleness, compassion, growth, challenge, and overcoming of challenge. You came wide open, ready for love. Pour it in now. Let your heart beat for you. Let your heart beat for you. And let it beat for those you love. Those who know you, love you, whose gaze is kind, whose trust is yours, whose life is part of your own. Picture them, offer them love, kindness, gentleness. Witness their growth, their learning, their challenge. Pray for their overcoming of challenge. They too deserve companionship, understanding. Offer it to them now. Let your heart beat for them. And let it beat for those you do not know so well, colleagues, acquaintances, fellow travelers on a bus or in the pew. They too were once very small. They too have gone through things, growth, learning, challenge. On this Veterans Weekend, know that some have gone through many things. May our hearts beat for those who have lost lives, limbs, wholeness. May our hearts beat for the tragedy that continues to burn in the Middle East. Beat for suffering, for those who cause such suffering. May our hearts beat for all. May our hearts beat for all. Amen. I now invite you into a time of personal meditation or reflection. If you wish, you can use this time to light a candle, a symbol of the Spirit within and among us. Please remember, if you are going through a difficult time, I am available. Kirsten is available. and our pastoral associates are here for you. If you need any one of us, please fill out the card in your pew or call or email us or find one of us after the service. May this time deepen and connect us to one another and to that which matters most to you today. I have a friend who's about 10, 15 years older than me, maybe 20. I see her as a bit of a spiritual luminary. She's very real, she's honest, she tells it like it is. I called her one day and asked her how she was doing. I've been practicing looking in the mirror, she told me, and it was really hard. I just kept noticing the wrinkles around my eyes and the way my face has changed, the lines around my mouth. There was pain, but also a poignant acceptance in her voice, and I was intrigued. Because what is this practicing looking in the mirror thing? I have been practicing not looking in the mirror. This whole aging thing, I don't know who came up with it, but I am not a fan. And the fact that she was intentionally facing this, learning how to love even the things she clearly finds hard to love, just thinking about it was vaguely unsettling, but also oddly freeing and inspiring. So I asked her about it. How long have you been practicing? What have you been discovering about yourself? Has it been getting easier or harder? And how are you feeling now? There was a long pause at the other end of the line. I was practicing a piece of music on my harp, she said, in front of the mirror, so I could see my hand placement on the instrument, and I happened to catch a glimpse of myself. No way would I intentionally practice looking in the mirror, she said. That sounds terrible. Okay, well, never mind. But this idea, practicing looking at even what I don't love, it stayed with me and resurfaced for this month of generosity because I did not really want to look in the mirror of this topic. I have read so many articles and sermons and books about how good it is to be generous. It's important, it's virtuous, it's honorable. I really wanted to preach something about that, share some inspiring examples, tell you why it's important, and then I'll go have some coffee. But unfortunately, what kept coming to me was that I have never seen myself as a particularly generous person. Growing up, I was never the first one to say, here, take mine, take my sweater, take my gloves, have my chair. I just wouldn't think of it. I am never sure how many extra miles I am supposed to walk, with how many people, or for how long. I have often puzzled over biblical texts that suggest we give everything away. How much? Everything? Can I keep any of it? What's enough to give? Is it ever too much? I do not feel like a natural at this. But I want to be. So I've been practicing and finding I have things to learn. I remember years ago when I first really started trying this, I went to do laundry and found my roommate's clothes in the dryer. I decided not to get irritated, but instead to take them out and fold them. There were a lot. But I made sure they were dry and then carefully hung each piece that needed to be hung and fluffed and folded and stacked each piece that needed to be stacked. It took a while. I did it with love. I remember they didn't thank me. In fact, they didn't mention it, and I was mad. Another time, I was heading to a meeting spot to go on a trip with a group. On the way there, I saw someone who had clearly just been in an accident. Eager to try out this new way of being, I pulled over to be there for her. She was mostly just shaken. I don't know if I was helpful to her, but I do remember realizing when I finally got to my destination 30 minutes late that I had left a couple dozen people stuck on a bus waiting for me. Oops. And then there was the time last year, so Ray Strand, in her opening words about a year ago, shared about something called mutual aid. She had explained to me that it was about caring for one another, even strangers outside of the systems that we have set up. And one way to do this, Starbucks cards. If you're homeless, she explained, you have nowhere to go and people hassle you everywhere. But if you give an unhoused person a $10 Starbucks card, they can sit in the warmth, undisturbed, the entire time they are sipping their tea or drinking their coffee. I was inspired and decided to try it. I bought some cards, waited for a cold day, and ventured out to see who I could help. I saw a man right down the street, sheltering from the wind in front of a closed municipal building. He was smoking, he looked cold. Why, I thought, would someone be standing around in front of a closed building unless they needed a Starbucks card? I can tell that you can probably think of a few reasons, but at that moment I could not. I offered him one. He didn't want it. He waved me away. He looked offended. Okay. I encountered a second man a few blocks away who also looked cold and a little lost and looking, well, I thought maybe he could use. This time I thought I would cleverly avoid offending him by asking him if he happened to know of anyone else who might want a Starbucks card. Then I would give him a couple and he would have them. His face told me this was not a better approach. Or maybe his frown meant he was wondering what was wrong with me. I mean, who runs around offering Starbucks cards to strangers who are just minding their own business? And what did my offer just reflect back to these two people? I don't know, but I will call it a significant generosity fail. Perhaps learning is a form of generosity to oneself and to everyone else. I wonder what your generosity experience is. What is hard or easy about it for you? When does it feel good? When does giving make you mad? What does the mirror of generosity show you about yourself? I think about what's in the mix. We live in a culture of Protestant ideals of sacrificial giving. After all, you can think of the ultimate sacrifice that sits at the heart of Christianity. We're not just supposed to be generous. It's supposed to hurt at least a little bit, but where's the line? And there's sexism too, generations of women trained to always give in big ways and small ways. I remember my mom growing up always being the one to take the burned toast, the smallest piece of chicken, to sit on the least comfortable chair. When I grow up, I'm not doing that, I thought to myself. For generations before mine, women were expected to give up much more than just the best seat. They were too often expected to give up their voice, their independence, their own opinion, things that felt essential to me. Generosity, self-sacrifice, sexism, submission got all munged together in my mind. And then there's this expectation to be good. Being generous in some measurable way seems to say something about who we are. Good people are giving, bad people are not. But what room does that leave for the in-between? And how can we be curious about the places we get a little tight if that just makes us bad? And then I think of what 12-step programs teach, that sometimes giving can be unhelpful caretaking, shortchanging someone else's need to grow. How can I tell? When should I give? When should I just listen? Throw into all of that the very real pressures to survive in a system that doesn't appear to care for our humanity, and the very real way people fall through the cracks. You see it everywhere. And maybe that's you right now. Please come find me after the service if that's you. On the other hand, there are also paper tigers, stories about scarcity masquerading as truth that just keep us all scared and small and disconnected. It creates this tangled ball of confusing messages that make it hard to know what to do with a stack of Starbucks cards, laundry in the dryer, South Church's budget drive, or the countless other generosity choices we encounter every day. But what it keeps coming back to for me is that meta practice that we did earlier together, a practice that is possible to do in countless ways, countless situations, the practice of slowing down, remembering who I am, how I began. To remember that the eyes with which I see were once full of wonder for everything. That the heart inside my chest today is the same heart that has beat for everyone I have ever loved. And so is yours. Doing that helps me see me, the real me. And doing it helps me see you, anyone, the real you. And doing that helps me make better decisions about everything. And right here, this congregation is a place to practice generosity, and maybe even to practice noticing when we do not feel generous. It is a place to open our hearts and give. And if we happen to know about ourselves that we can get stuck in the always on position, to say no from time to time and see what happens. It's a place to notice, as Kirsten pointed to, what we love and want more of in worship or anywhere. What makes us edgy that we want less of, and to look in the mirror of ourselves and notice and get curious about those tight, not so generous places in our hearts. Even if we don't like seeing what we see. Because when we do that, when we start with compassion for the self, with compassion for where we get stuck, when we open our heart to that and to other people, our giving can come from a deeper place that nourishes us all. The good news is we don't have to do any of it perfectly. There's a beautiful teaching from the Jewish tradition on 8 levels of giving, all the way from only giving begrudgingly when someone insists, and only if you're thanked, and only if others witness it, all the way to anonymous giving and the kind that strengthens the other person's capacity to take care of themselves. But every one of those levels of giving have merit, these teachings make clear. All giving heads us in the right direction. all teach us and offer us something. And I was personally heartened to read a perspective on scriptural teachings with which I sometimes struggle. Tibetan Buddhist scholar Guy Newland writes that these stories about great sacrifice are not a demand by God or by the Buddha. They are stories of people whose hearts have grown exceptional in their capacity to give. The more extreme stories his teachers have told him are not necessarily to be taken as models for our current behavior or ways to beat ourselves up. Instead, these teachers say, such stories inspire us to always expand what we are capable of sharing, while never assuming that we have reached the limit of what we can do to help others. We get to look within and see just how large our hearts can grow, and then work to make them even bigger. I want to be a generous, virtuous, honorable person, but I realized over the course of writing this sermon that the real question is not whether, it's when. The mirror of generosity does not have to be a judgment, but it can be a path, an opportunity to remember, get curious, and practice. And I now do want to leave you with 3 inspiring stories, and then we can go get coffee. I first heard these stories in a sermon from Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey. Today, I watched a teenage boy. These are not from her. She's relaying these. Today, I watched a teenage boy help an elderly woman with a cane onto the city bus I was riding. He was so careful with her, assisting her every step of the way. The woman had the biggest smile on her face. They both sat directly across from me, the writer says, and just as I was about to compliment the woman with having such a wonderful grandson, the boy looked at her and said, "My name is Chris. What's your name, ma'am?" Here's another. Today, I stopped on the side of the road to help an elderly man who was struggling with a flat tire. It turns out he was the firefighter who pulled my mom and me out of our burning building when I was a kid. Even though I hadn't seen him in 30 years, it took me only a few seconds to recognize him. We chatted about it for a while, and then as soon as I had the spare tire secured on his car, we looked at each other, shook hands, and said, "Thank you." And then today at the local convenience store where I work, an elderly man with a guide dog came in, went to the aisle with the greeting cards, picked up a card, held it up extremely close to his face, and struggled to read it. Just as I was about to walk over to help him, a big truck driver asked him if he needed assistance reading, and then proceeded to read him almost every single greeting card out loud until the elderly man smiled and said, "That's perfect. My wife will love that one." We get to learn to love what we see in the mirror and soften even when we don't. We get to start with what our hearts are capable of and grow from there. Those of you who are already good at it, please keep leading the way. And those of you who are learning and wondering and growing too, let's keep practicing together. Who knows what we might create together? Amen. Let us join together in our closing hymn. It is number 1029 in your teal hymnal. hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love offers life in spite of foes who threaten and condemn. Embracing enemies, love goes the second mile with them. Love comes to heal a broken heart, to ease the troubled mind. Without a word, love bids to start, to seek and ask and find. Love knocks and enters at the sound of welcome from within. Love sings and dances all around and feels new life begin.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words are adapted from Reverend Rebecca Parker. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of hands, the reaches of heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. And any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. We must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? May we choose to bless the world. None of us alone can save it. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Go in peace.